Fools. They are everywhere.
Cheers.
Not a compliment. And they come in all shapes and sizes. Here we go. Who better to test the new foolproof iPhone app from Sportsbet than these Einsteins?
I personally believe that apps like such as Sportsbet, they make it easier for people to use, such as some
I'm with you.
people.
Yep, it's so easy. Even Botox Bradley here can use it without raising an eyebrow.
I'll never botch your head-to-head again.
And you make it look so natural. Flat Earth expert Mark Sargent thinks the moon landing was a hoax.
Technically, the moon itself is a hoax.
Right, but betting with Sportsbet's new iPhone app?
I could do this standing on my head.
Thanks, Gravity. Sportsbet's new iPhone app. It's foolproof.
Well, I think the issue here is we're talking about primary school. We're talking about very young children. We're talking about children 5, 6, 7, 8. To us, that seems extremely young to start pushing, a social agenda on such young children. It's different when you become an adult or a teenager. You can start working through those things. But at such a young age, we feel that a child is not able to make an informed decision. It's a major life-changing thing.
I think we've done a lot of transgender interviews on here. Met a lot of children who have decided that they are gender fluid, and a lot of parents who as well. The parents, I think, pretty much on the whole, I could say that never pushed their children into this. It was the child's choice to help them. It was the child that had the issue that they felt. I want to do this for me.
Yes. I think we would say that, children at that young who have a confusion about which gender they are, that they need that support. We have compassion and love about these families and the families. This has been a very painful thing because we are friends with these people. We love the school, and we do assemblies. We're very involved, but we see the effect of this on there, and we just felt that the process that happened is not right. It was just like pushed. This is going to happen one day. They just turn up. A boy wearing a girl's dress with a girl's name, instead of having a proper consultation with that. And we just feel that child needs to be taken aside with medical advice, people who experience...
Medical advice?
Well,
why
yes.
medical advice? Why does a child who decides they're gender fluid need medical advice?
Well, under the Equality Act, apparently, it's at the age of 18 this starts, and you have to show that you have been a transgender for 2 years and that sort of thing. But again, it comes down to it being a child. You see, a child of that so young can't make that informed decision. It's far too young. And the statistic also, apparently, is that 98%, I believe, of people who say that they felt like that when they were younger turn out not to be like that at all. And I think it could be damaging not only to the transgender stuff, but all the other kids.
Can I make... Because obviously, you'd made the decision to take both your children out and homeschool them because they were under a amount of stress. And I can understand that it might have been a shock that one day suddenly a boy comes in a dress and the name's changed. And without that understanding of what's happened, I can understand that might have been an unusual thing to happen. But is this not part of the understanding that by doing this, there is greater understanding, and actually it could have been a chance to open up a conversation to educate, so it became more normal, so it wasn't a stressful situation.
I totally agree with you, but we felt that it shouldn't be done in the environment of the school. It should be done out of the school. These things have to be dealt with out of the school.
They are at school, aren't they? I guess that's the thing.
It's a major part of that child's life. It's where they spend most of their time.
But then you're imposing that on all the other children.
Why is it an imposition?
Because you are asking them. They know that one day they know that child, that they're the friends, they're a boy, this is their name, and now you're saying, now you have to now call them he, she, change the pronoun, change the name.
There'll be a lot of people who are saying that children adapt remarkably well, and if things are explained to them, then they understand very clearly. It's not an issue with the children; it's an issue with you. You're the ones that have the problem, not the children.
Well, how do you deal with a child then? Because one of the children comes sometimes as a boy, sometimes as a girl.
It was an unusual start to Friday's This Morning programme.
Today, Philip would like to share something with you. And to help him do that, he's here with his on-screen partner, but more importantly, his friend, Holly.
Philip Schofield, the presenter who usually helps guests share part of their lives with viewers, instead today shared a part of his, revealing that he is gay.
We sit here every day, and I'm over there, and some amazingly brave, incredible person is sitting here, and I'm listening to their story and thinking, oh my God, you're so brave, oh my God, you're so brave. And I'm thinking, I have to be that person. I have to be that person. Because I think all you can be in your life is honest with yourself. And I was getting to the point where I knew I wasn't honest with myself. I was getting to the point where I didn't like myself very much because I wasn't being honest with myself.
Just minutes earlier, he shared the news on his Instagram account to his almost 3 million followers. A statement read today by his co-host, Holly Willoughby.
You never know what is going on in someone's seemingly perfect life, what issues they are struggling with, or the state of their well-being. And so you won't know that what has been consuming me for the last few years. With the strength and support of my wife and my daughters, I've been coming to terms with the fact that I am gay.
Forces of nature.
Yeah.
So in what areas, what are you looking at?
Well, the idea is that if you look at the world that we see, so you know, the green leaves, the blue sky, spherical planets, all those things are telling you something about the deeper structure that underlies nature. So even life. So next week's is about the origin of life. So it's how did we feel living is a very special thing, but it's a property of matter, of this stuff. You know, the Earth was once just a dead world when it formed, 4.5 billion years ago, and at some point that matter came alive.
And you go to some really far-flung destinations, and as you can see there from that tiny bit that we showed, I mean, it's beautiful. Like, it's beautifully shot, and you see some incredible things that you wouldn't necessarily have to get to see.
Yeah, I think that was the idea, to send film crews out, and it's sort of the way you mentioned David Attenborough earlier, the way that his programmes work, where a film crew can go and for months even film something spectacular. And we saw that wave on that clip through the Amazon.
Yeah.
It's a wonderful, incredible tidal wave that goes up the river, and you see in the film that someone spends their life surfing it. So there's kind of his whole thing is to wait for this wave and surf into the jungle of the Amazon.
The Earth is flat. Why do you say that?
The evidence that we've seen doesn't suggest that what we've been told is true.
What evidence have you seen?
Well, I personally have been to Lake Balaton with FE Core, and we've actually done a laser test from one end of the lake to the, well, didn't do the full lake because it's massive, but we did a 12-kilometre test, and we could actually see the laser from one end to the other. And since then, the guys have actually produced a 40-kilometre laser test.
So this guy with a laser debunks all the pictures?
No, it's not. That's the only thing. It's just an example of some of the experiments.
So, Darren, you were sceptical at first, weren't you? So you thought...
I think it's right to be sceptical about alternative views, but what we never are is sceptical about the mainstream view that we're told since we're children. Over and over again, it's programmed into us.
So what finally convinced you, then?
Well, it took me 6 months. I was sceptical for the first 6 months. And there are a couple of main things. One is water always finds level. So in our own experience in natural physics, you have a cup of tea or a swimming pool or a lake, water is level. But we're led to believe that, well, the Earth is supposed to be 70% water, so at some point water starts curving around a ball. Now, obviously, the answer to that is the magic of gravity.
Yeah.
Now, I believe gravity exists, but only as an effect, not as a cause. So science itself has never proven gravity as a force itself. What is proven is 9.8 metres per squared metres per second squared is the near constant rate of acceleration towards the Earth all over the Earth.
What is happening here?
That's what I'm saying. We don't know, and science has never proven that as a force. Obviously, they have proven it is observable science that things accelerate at the same rate. Yeah, but
and that we're stuck to the ground.
Nobody knows what is actually causing it, and scientists themselves will tell you.
So Sir Isaac Newton got that wrong, did he? Did he just get that completely wrong?
Well, I don't think he particularly got it wrong. I think we're told a lot of truths, but possibly not full truths.
What about someone like Brian Cox? Is Brian Cox a liar?
I mean, you'd never call somebody, outright a liar. But is he mistaken? Absolutely. But are most of the world, or 99%, of people mistaken? Yes.
This is what Brian Cox had to say about the flat Earth theory.
Put aside the fact that we've taken photographs of it, and you can see a horizon. And not only can you see the horizon, but you can see things move behind the horizon or in front of the horizon, depending on the height that you choose to look at the things. You see, I'm lost for words. It's probably the most nonsensical suggestion that a thinking human being could possibly make. It is drivel.
So that's from a scientist.
He was, and he said something very interesting there. He said it's nonsensical, and we say that's actually not true. What our own senses tell us is that the Earth is stationary.
But nobody's fallen off the edge of it.
Nobody has fallen off the edge of it.
At what point do you fall off the edge?
Can I just respond to what Brian said there? He said things disappeared behind the curve, and one of the main reasons why we believe that the Earth is a fixed stationary plane is because things aren't disappearing as quickly as they should be. We can see cities and mountains and islands 40, 60 or 100 miles. The world photography distance record is 273 miles, right? And we can see the tips of the Pyrenees from the south of France, and you shouldn't be able to see it.
You can't see the base of them.
Well, of course not.
Because the Earth is round.
Not because the Earth is round, and because of perspective, and because of the way light works, and because of the way our eyes work.
We interviewed on it. One of the highlights of my career, actually, was interviewing Major Tim Peake up in space on the International Space Station.
Right.
Now, he brought in his beautiful book. You see the curvature of the Earth. You very clearly see that it's a circle. So are you telling me that this interview with him, I'm talking to somebody that's just made that up or wasn't actually there?
Yeah, he's not.
He's not in outer space. Where is he then?
In a Hollywood studio type.
Not necessarily
Hollywood
studio,
here,
but
maybe where we are now.
But so you're saying that Tim Peake is a liar?
Well, I mean, if you look at Tim Peake and people like Neil Armstrong and all the astronauts, they're all military guys. If you look at them, they're all military. They're not scientists.
No, they're not. No, they're not. 230 individuals from 18 different countries have visited the space station. They were not all military. Some were teachers. We've met some of them, ordinary people. Are all 230 people liars?
Can we just end this debate by saying...
No way can we.
We've got a beautiful globe over here.
It's been going for quite some time.
We've got a fantastic globe over here, right? I'm going to ask ISS, NASA, whatever, to zoom out of the Earth right now and show us planes, zoom to show people walking upside down. Let's do that, and we will... I'll come back here and apologise.
The space station can't zoom out to 230. It can't zoom out to beyond where...
So can we get a probe out? Can we get a probe out?
We've done that.
It's only 250
of the whole
miles.
Earth, and showing aeroplanes flying upside down underneath the globe? Can we see that?
All we see is CGI.
There are apps that can show you that.
What, aeroplanes flying upside down?
Live?
Yes.
No.
Wow.
Yes, there's the live positioning of all the aeroplanes on the world.
Right,
They're on there. Can you answer me a question? Because I have personally seen with my own eyes the curvature of the Earth.
Is he lying?
Is it the circle vision of your
sight? He's not a liar, though.
Is it the circle limit of your sight? Because obviously the limit of our eyesight...
I was very lucky, and I went on Concorde. Okay. So I was very lucky I went on Concorde. So that's 60,000 feet. You could clearly see the curvature of the Earth.
What's the shape of the
Concorde.
windows?
Actually, science...
it was the shape of the windows.
No, I didn't say that. I said, what was the shape of the windows, is what I said.
Like an oval?
Scientists themselves tell us that you have to be 50 miles up to be able to see the curvature of the globe. A plane, an average commercial plane, travels at 7 miles, which is around 33,000 feet, 35,000 feet.
Wasn't.
You were about 10 or 12 miles, so we're still, again, way below what scientists themselves tell us.
Oh, I've got so many questions. We're going to have to end this. I'm really sorry. I really want to ask you one, but hold on. We will. We can continue. But we asked the poll. You've got a long way to convince our viewers, I'm afraid. Do you think the Earth is flat? No, say 94% of you, but 6%...
That's probably about right. All I'd say is go research it for yourself. There is a wealth of material online.
All right.
Have a look
We're living in the
yourselves.
age of technology. There's no excuse anymore.
Yes,
All right,
absolutely.
thank you, thank you. Although the
And if
Greeks
you,
saw the shadow on the thing, they didn't.
If you are interested,
Yes,
I bet there is.
if you are interested, the space station is currently off the coast of New Zealand.
Or is it?
And now then, most of us have spent our entire lives thinking that the Earth looks like this. But you can forget about that because the Earth, in fact, well done, nicely caught, looks like this. This is what it is. It's flat. And it has a, just like Game of Thrones, it has a big ice wall surrounding it.
Mark Sargent is one of the leading voices in the Flat Earth movement, and he believes it's time that we all woke up and realised that we actually are living on a flat disc.
Well, Mark joins us now.
Welcome.
Good morning, Mark.
Welcome.
I mean, obviously, there are thousands of questions,
Yes.
which I'm sure you've been asked 1,000 times.
A few, yes.
Yeah. So, we believed for many years that the Earth was flat, and then science comes along, and discovery comes along, and we think, right, OK, now we can see that it's actually round.
Sure.
We've seen that it's round.
Sure.
So how come it's not?
It's not because we can't prove it's a globe. Everything that we've... In fact, it starts out with everybody that's in the Flat Earth community starts out looking at the globe saying, can you prove it? Can you prove the globe, especially without using NASA? Because it's not that we found out that the world was a globe back in 1972. We knew for 5 centuries. So that's how everyone starts. You try to prove it in a court of law.
I flew in Concorde, and I was lucky enough to fly in Concorde, and you get up to 65,000 feet, and I could see the curvature of the Earth. That was proof to me. How come that wasn't true?
And yet I could show you weather balloon footage from 120,000 feet, and it's absolutely tabletop flat. And Neil deGrasse Tyson, the world's most famous scientist, no offense to Brian Cox, he'll come out and tell you, no civilian will ever be able to see the curvature of the Earth. Because
So is he lying?
No, I'm not saying that you're lying. I'm saying that you wanted to see the curvature. There's a big difference.
But don't you want to believe that it's flat? You have
No.
no proof. I have more proof than you do.
I would challenge that.
Well, I've got footage here that's direct from the space station, and that's live pictures from the space station now.
Right.
That's all a lie.
Again, started from the American military. Yes, absolutely. I'm saying it's worse than that.
So what is that then? What am I looking at if I'm not looking at live pictures?
You're looking at CGI, nothing more. Something that started out very simple back in the 1950s and advanced till today.
So I'm a bit of a space nut.
Sure. Sorry.
And so no. I mean, I'm very happy with that.
Right.
And I've got the app on my phone, which has got where the space station is right now. And I have in the past looked at those live pictures.
Yes.
And I have seen where the space station is and thought, right, it's coming over me now. And so I have watched the space station. You can see it as that light. It doesn't blink, doesn't flash, goes over as a solid light. And at the same time, I've looked at my laptop and I've seen where I am.
Yeah. Oh, I'm not saying there's something up there, no question. Is there a vehicle that could be the ISS up there? Yeah. Are there people inside it? No. Not a chance. And you can look at the interior footage, and the production value is horrible. I challenge anybody. We've got
I've interviewed, both of us, we've interviewed Tim Peake from this sofa.
I know. And
so what was I doing? Who was I talking to? Where was he?
You were talking to a military officer, nothing more. I talked to Terry Virts, American astronaut. And look, they're all, you got to remember, everybody that goes up there are high-ranking military. They start out at colonel and go...
Why would he bother?
Why would you bother faking it?
Yeah, why? What's the point of faking it?
Well, that's one of the bigger questions, which is why keep this thing a secret? And we're talking about...
No, but why fake it?
Because if you don't fake it, eventually the private industry is going to get involved, and then they're going to find out on their own. This is
why that would be bad, because
if you don't keep this thing a secret. Remember, we're talking about something that was discovered back in 1960. The public wasn't ready in 1960. They just weren't. Their potential academically, economically, religiously, chaos potentially. And so they weren't going to take that chance.
So pilots are involved in this?
No, not at all. No. Pilots, scientists, none of those people. I have astrophysicists, Brian Cox. None of them have anything to do with it.
Okay, so all of those people,
right?
Every NASA science, everyone who's scientist, everyone who's ever been involved at any stage in any space program, whether it's industry that launches satellites, the various people that launch those satellites, everyone that's ever worked on the space shuttle or the Apollo program, they're all.
No, it's just
pointless.
No. I mean, jobs are created, and it's compartmentalization. I mean, it's no different. Look, generals know the battle plans, but most of the officers below them don't.
Were the Apollo, those massive Apollo rockets?
We've been to the moon, right?
Were those Apollo rockets that went up into the air? Did they go?
They didn't go anywhere. They just went off into the ocean and ditched. That was, I mean, again, I'm an American. Look, we're taught, you know, rah, rah, go team, wave the flag. And so it's tough for me because I love the American space program.
So you flew in a straight line to get here?
I did fly in a straight line to get here, yes.
And,
Over a level playing
you've
field.
got this, so we've got a dome over the top?
Yeah. So let me do this real quick. So the globe that you threw away, what we're talking about is we are all brought up, taught that we live on this tiny little rock that's covered in a little bit of water and smoke. We're flying through this impossible vacuum of space. We're saying that we live on a flat, enclosed world that is basically, you're basically living in a big soundstage with walls and a floor and a ceiling.
The Truman Show.
The Truman Show, yeah, very, very, very similar. That is so big that even our best and brightest didn't figure it out until about 1960. And when they did decide to keep it a secret, the really, really short version is you don't live on a globe. This is what it looks like on the outside. That's what it looks like on the inside. There you go.
So why don't we just fall off the edge?
For the same reason, the space asteroid question. Yeah. So for the same reason why you don't fall off the edge here. Antarctica is the only continent that doesn't look like anything else. All the other continents in here look perfectly fine. Antarctica, though, and it's not necessarily an ice wall, it's just Antarctica, this really, really, really high continent.
So you're saying Antarctica goes all the way around?
Yep.
So where's the North Pole?
North Pole's in the center. North Pole's in the center. South Pole doesn't exist. Compasses don't work down in Antarctica. Most people don't talk about that. The Antarctic Treaty says that no corporation in the history of the world can set up shop down there forever.
What's outside?
That's a tough one, isn't it?
Well,
I mean, because it
you
could
have no clue.
Well, I mean, if you can't get outside, you're not going to know for sure. But I mean, I don't think, you know, my personal opinion is this isn't a one-off. There's not just one of these. There's more.
So we've got a picture of what you think what it's.
Oh yeah. That was made by one of our people, and it's a great option. I love it.
Have they been there? Have they seen that?
No, of course not.
Okay.
So
there's a hole in the wall there. There's a hole.
No.
There's a hole in the wall.
Yeah.
So can you go through that and go to the other places?
Again, flat Earth opens the minds of people. Most of the flat earthers will stick with something like this. But, you know, other flat earthers, I'm not going to knock them. It opens minds.
Okay, but amongst your people,
Yes.
amongst your flat earthers,
Sure.
you argue amongst yourselves as well.
Like the
And
Scottish
actually,
Highlands, we argue.
You have been accused yourself as being sort of a member, I think, of Warner Brothers or something. You're making this up.
Government agent, yeah.
So, I mean, aren't you just all turning on yourselves? Like,
No,
you can't believe anything.
No.
Ever.
It's
not even your own.
At the end of the day, again, like the Scottish Highlands, no offense, but, you know, they can all agree on one thing. They hate the English. That's the same sort of thing here. We disagree on so many of the finer points here. But at the end of the day, we all agree on one thing, and that is not a globe. And you can absolutely, you can hammer on the globe. Everybody starts out hating flat Earth, and everybody tears down the globe themselves. That's why we have a 99% retention rate.
Do you not believe any proof in anything?
No, I believe in proof in things.
Okay.
But
in which case, well, I've got to ask you.
Sure.
That we obviously, those of us who believe that the Earth is round,
right.
There are lots and lots of things that would help us to convince ourselves that the Earth is indeed round.
Globe, by the way.
The globe. Yeah.
I mean, technically, this is round.
Okay. Yeah. And flat. And so, what proof do you have? No one has ever been there.
Got it.
No one has ever taken any pictures of the ice wall that surrounds us.
Exactly.
So. No one can get anywhere near. Why can't we go there? Why can't I?
Oh, the Antarctic Treaty. And you can go there. If you want to spend, I think it's like 12,000 pounds, you can go to the edge, one of the peninsulas, and get your picture taken with penguins.
No, I want to see the wall. Well, I know.
Well, I mean, the wall itself
Attenborough's been
just
to
extends for a long... you can get to the Antarctic coastline. That's not a problem.
Yeah. I want to go to the wall.
Boy, you're going to go all the way in here? No, the Antarctic Treaty forbids it. You cannot go there. It's locked down. It's the only unbroken treaty in the history of treaties.
How do you know
every
that?
country in the world.
Oh, no, it's not secret information. None of this stuff is secret information.
But where are you getting that information?
What, the Antarctic Treaty? It's public domain. I mean, it's a PDF. In fact, I gave it to your producer.
But the
It's on a
Antarctic
flash
Treaty is about limiting the stripping of resources.
It's all corporations. Every corporation in the world, no one can set up shop there. And it's also the only piece of real estate in the world that's not owned by anybody. A little strange, since we're fighting over real estate all the time. But no, I mean, stripping of resources, in a treaty that was built in 1959, environmentalism wasn't even a word back then.
Do we communicate with anyone out there? Is there any trade between the two places?
I don't know. couldn't tell you that. To your proof questions, and I know we don't have a whole lot of time left. Sorry, let me give you the 5 bullet points that I gave a Georgetown physicist, and he folded like a card table almost immediately. I put this challenge out to Brian Cox, Neil deGrasse Tyson, Michio Kaku, any of these guys. First one would be long-distance photography. Curvature of the Earth is 8 inches per mile squared. We eventually should not be able to see over the hill. We should be a hill. It should be gone. HD technology has changed that. Now we can see things way, way further. There's some wonderful work being done by Nathan Oakley and some UK teams where they're actually seeing a horizon behind oil platforms at 10, 15, 20 miles. Gravity versus the vacuum of space. Gravity's holding things down, right? That's gravity, no problem, right? You make the upper part of this a vacuum chamber, you pull a cork, everything's gonna rush upstairs. Well, why, when you go outside, why isn't the air outside rushing into space? You can't, the atmosphere. Why doesn't it go into space? Can't say gravity anymore because gravity didn't hold the air in this room for that little test. Third, the moon eclipse is too small. The moon eclipse is 70 miles wide and the moon is 2,000 miles wide. We never see that in nature. The moon eclipse we say the moon is about 70 miles wide. Fourth would be the moon temperature. That's a spooky one. I didn't even know that till about two years in, which is the moon generates a cold light, which is warmer in the moon shade than it is in the moonlight. If you magnify moonlight, it gets even colder. It's generating a cold laser light. It doesn't even make sense. And the last question, which is the Van Allen radiation trap question, which is, are the Van Allen radiation belts deadly? Yes or no? If they are deadly, then how'd the Americans get past it with no shielding whatsoever? Remember, the only thing that can stop radiation is gold, lead, and a whole bunch of water. They went with aluminum and plastic. Nobody died. Nobody got radiation poisoning. Nobody even got cancer. There's still 5 of them walking around today. If you say yes, then why does NASA have this wonderful video, Ryan trial by fire, saying, oh yeah, we can't send any capsules into space because we haven't solved the radiation problem yet?
Well, maybe that's because you've got to go closer when you go to Mars and it takes longer and there's more exposure, perhaps? I don't know.
Maybe.
Yeah, well.
Maybe.
Maybe, he says.
Oh, no, I'm not going to shoot it down. It's a better answer that I've gotten from a lot of people. Sorry, go ahead.
NASA say, we've known the Earth is around for more than 2,000 years. The Earth is not a perfect sphere because the force caused by the Earth's rotation, north and south poles are slightly flat. Earth's rotation, wobbly motion, and other forces are making the planet change shape very slowly. But it is still round, and that's NASA, but you say that they're in on it.
Yeah.
I say, listen, you know, of all the things that are going on in the world, of everything that's happening, I think we'd all probably cope if someone said, actually, it looks like this.
I think we would too.
Okay, all right, fine.
I absolutely agree with you, which is why I think it's being let out. I'm not doing this.
Stop spending all the money on CGI and space products and projects, and let's build some more hospitals.
Absolutely.
I think we can all cope with it.
I agree. 1960, I don't think we were ready. 2020, I think we are.
Let's go there and see what's like on the other side. There might be nicer places to be. It could be a good holiday destination.
I'm with you.
We could put it on the spin to win.
I think we're ready to know. Tell us.
Thank you. Thank you. Fascinating.
The Flat Earth Society has tweeted back Elon Musk.
What is a Flat Earth Society, by the way?
People believe the Earth is flat.
Still?
Yeah.
Well, I think we solved that a long time ago.
We did.
Elon Musk had tweeted out, why is there no Flat Mars Society? And everyone thought it was super funny, you know, whatever. The Flat Earth Society finally wrote back, and they said, hi, Elon, thanks for the question. Unlike the Earth, Mars has been observed to be round. We hope you have a fantastic day. Just very confusing.
Yeah, but from Mars, Earth has been observed to be round.
Clearly, that's why everybody is super confused right now.
Why couldn't the Earth be round but not spherical? It could be flat round.
A flat disc?
A flat disc with ice around the edges.
Because we would fall off the end when you're on a boat.
I'm just saying, I don't believe in these people, but people trust textbooks and they've never observed it themselves.
Charlie, you're from down under, so when you left Australia and came to America, when did you go on the other side of the disc?
I don't know, it was nighttime. I wasn't looking out the window.
The following is a story from one of our unfortunate writers. During the holidays, I traveled back home to see my mom for what I thought was going to be a fun break, but things turned a bit sour one evening when she broke some important news to me. The Earth is flat, she announced, speaking in a serious tone, usually reserved for matters of life and death. What on earth are you talking about? I said to her. And again, she told me the planet was actually flat, and all these years we've been lied to. The fact is indisputable, she said, immutable, incontestable. And she knew that because she'd been doing a lot of reading on the internet. Okay, I told her, state your case. This is how our conversation went. Okay, she said. Firstly, you don't know that I'm wrong because you never observed the Earth as a whole. From where you stand anywhere on Earth, the world will seem flat to you. That's a fact. I peered out the window. She was right about that. Things did look pretty flat out there. Was the entire world just one big whopper? So that's it, I said. Just because I can't observe the entire thing, it must be flat? No, she replied. That's just my starting point, and stop smirking. This is deadly serious. At that point, an image flashed through my mind of my mother surrounded by men in white coats coaxing her to take her daily medication. Okay, I said. I haven't personally been up so high that I saw the spherical Earth, but other people have, and they have seen the Earth. You can actually see it rotating on its axis. We've measured the diameter of the thing, and it's approximately 7,900 miles, or to most people living on this non-flat Earth, 12,700 kilometers. There are images of this big ball all over the place. All lies, she said. Those books have been lying to you. The videos and the photos have been manipulated. She said the Earth is flat like in ancient myths where a turtle carries it on its back. And what we observe in the sky is not what we think. What encompasses the Earth is actually a firmament dome, she said. NASA has lied to us and is in on the conspiracy, but that doesn't mean all scientists know the truth, only that they have too bought into this spherical nonsense. She said during the Cold War the conspiracy got going and billions of dollars were spent on space exploration. This money is still being wildly spent and you, my son, are paying taxes and funding this rubbish. People have been getting incredibly rich because you take movies like Apollo 13 seriously. You're telling me Tom Hanks is in on the conspiracy? No, she replied, and don't get funny, you know what I mean. Okay, I said. I have one word to say to you. Seasons. Expand, she said, trying to sound scholarly. We have different seasons all over the world, ergo the sun's rays are hitting different places and they're making places hotter or colder. Those rays hit different parts of the Earth, and so when it's winter in one place, it's summer in another place. If the Earth were flat, all the Earth would have is the same season all at the same time. You don't need to be a rocket scientist to know this. She told me that the sun just moves around the flat Earth, so it hits certain places at certain times. She then went to get a plate out of the kitchen and began moving an orange around it. She said the sun and the moon were the same size, and she said the sun, that orange she was holding, rotates around the North Pole, which is actually in the middle of the flat Earth. But Mom, I said, the sun is much bigger than the moon and that is observable. That orange plate thing doesn't really mean anything. I also explained to her that if this theory were true, then New York and Los Angeles would see the sun set and rise at the same time, which is not true. There is a time difference, so when it's evening in New York, it's afternoon in LA. How can that be? She told me I'm an ignorant fool, but didn't answer my query. This was quite strong language for my mom. It seemed to me that all those hours she had spent arguing online had made her quite intolerant to opposing ideas. Dare I say it, I was offended by her breach of familiar decorum. Okay, I said, once I unruffled my feathers. What's at the edge of this flat world, and why don't things just fall off? She told me that surrounding the Earth is a giant wall of ice, and that is Antarctica. Like Game of Thrones, I said, laughing. Should we fear the White Walkers? If you're not going to take this seriously, I won't explain further, she said sternly. Okay, go on. She said the sun was in fact not millions of miles away. She said it's actually only about 32 miles in diameter, and it hovers around the flat Earth at around 3,000 miles away. It acts like a moving spotlight, she said. So when it's above you, it's light, and when it goes away, it's dark. But it also moves closer to the North Pole in the middle of the Earth at a gradual rate, and then it moves outward toward the edge of the world. And that's why we have seasons. It's that simple. The thing is, Mom, if you use this model, the sun would never set. You can actually watch scientists making a model of your version of the events. It doesn't work according to how things are down here. Moreover, I told her, during the equinox, the sun rises due east and sets due west everywhere on the planet except at the poles. How could this be possible with your orange and plate theory? Sundials wouldn't even work, which would have been bad for people before we started using timepieces. Okay, please continue. You were also saying something about a massive ice wall? Allow me to retort, she said. She's a big Quentin Tarantino fan. What lies beyond the wall is the greatest mystery to us all. We simply can't get over it, and it probably protects us from something insidious. This wall holds in the oceans, and it keeps us from knowing what's beyond. In fact, this year we plan to sail to the wall in what will be one of the boldest missions humankind has ever undertaken. Okay, so who is going to be on that great voyage, I asked her. She told me it's headed by Flat Earth International, a group she is now a card-carrying member of. Mom, I intoned, I'm very surprised that there's this giant wall of ice around the world, and so far no one, and I mean no one, has ever photographed it. She replied that we have seen great walls of ice and that the rest of the border is made up of mountain ranges. That's why we can't just fall off the edge of the world. But why haven't the planes seen this edge, I asked her. She then went on about something called the Pac-Man effect, and like in the game, when a plane reaches the edge, it just teleports to the other side. She admitted that this was only a current theory and not the truth like everything else she'd said. This was now new territory, and those men in white coats were suddenly becoming quite real to me. "And what about gravity?" I asked her, to which point she said the whole thing is a hoax. Things just fall. She dropped that orange to prove her point, and amid my utter astonishment at her simplicity and undermining years of science, I wondered why on earth she ever sent me to school. She said under this flat earth there are magnets and they pull the oceans and change sea level. "Maybe we should talk about the stars," I said. I told her that if we were on a flat earth, we'd all see the same constellations in the night sky. In real life, if you were at a certain latitude, you might see the Big Dipper, but if you were at another latitude, it wouldn't be visible. How's that possible? Going back to ancient times, astronomers saw the changes in the constellations and they knew the Earth couldn't be flat. How do people on different sides of the world see different night skies? She told me when we travel, we simply have a different perspective, so that when we travel away from things, they can become smaller and then they just disappear. But they are still there. That's why we can see certain stars in certain places. She said there's a vanishing point for stars just like anything else we observe at a distance. "Mom," I said, "I admit that I don't quite understand that in this context, but I'll just say that astronomers will tell you that certain constellations appear in the night sky at certain locations. Your vanishing point theory doesn't exactly convince me. And let's talk about the horizon. When we see things like ships float out to sea, they get farther away and appear to sink. We see less of the ship. Let's say the water was very calm. If the Earth was flat, we'd see that ship go out for a long way, and then it would disappear over the horizon. Then let's say we used an instrument to magnify that object, and we might see it, but see it seeming to sink. At some point, it'll disappear, never mind what instrument we're using because of the curvature of the Earth. If this place were flat, with a good enough telescope, we should be able to see everything in front of us. But we cannot. Explain that, dearest mother. Look, son, it's all about perspective and light refraction. The object is not going over the horizon, you just think it is. Weird, I said, since it's been scientifically proven. She had one word for that. Liars! Okay, so why, if other objects in space are obviously not flat, how come we live on a flat object? Hope you have a reasonable answer to that one. There is no reason, my child. Just look around you. That TV is rectangular, but the clock is round. The Earth is just different, just as all things have certain shapes. Well, Mom, I admire your deductive reasoning, and I hope one day I'll see my first square bird swim through a desert of marshmallow sand. Cause hey, there are no rules in this universe. Sarcasm is the lowest form of wit, she replied angrily. But the highest form of intelligence, I quipped, quoting Oscar Wilde. I then told her something else. I brought up a flight from Sydney to Santiago, Chile. This 7,000-mile flight takes roughly 12 hours. If the Earth were flat, it would take much, much longer. You can actually go online and track this flight. Is everyone lying about the flight time? On a flat Earth map, you can measure the distance and calculate how long it would take. And it's been done, and it's far longer than if the world were a sphere. She just shook her head at that. Okay, she then said, so if the plane is flying around the Earth's curvature, then surely it wouldn't be horizontal all the time. So how come you take a spirit level on a plane and it shows it is horizontal most of the time? If you attach the world's smallest spirit level to the back of a housefly and told it to fly around a beach ball, that level would not read flat. Mom, that incredibly simplistic example has convinced me that we undoubtedly cannot share the same DNA. Let me just say, the Earth is not a beach ball and a plane is not a fly. I hope that's clear to you. She looked down at me like I was the idiot. I told her that planes lift into the air with their wings and this enables them to fly, which I thought was pretty obvious. Once up in the sky, the pilot doesn't have to make many adjustments to stay at a certain altitude. He might adjust the plane when he wants to reduce altitude, but this is very incremental. It's the same thing when you're traveling down what looks like a long, straightish road. You might be moving to the left, but it's so slight, only a minor turning of the wheel over some period of time has to be done. Imagine a housefly flying over New York. Does it have to go down on a downward trajectory to get where it wants to go? Exactly, she screamed. That just proves my point. I had to sit down for a second and hold my head in my hands. It wasn't funny anymore. I was no longer having a good time. She was totally impervious to the most basic reasoning. Okay, let's get back to the absurd stuff, Mom, because that's at least amusing. And I'm talking about the great ice wall that no man has ever breached. You have to wonder why the plane can't get over this wall, because there are plenty of aerial photographs of Antarctica taken from planes. Well, she said, maybe you just don't want to show us what's out there, so no plane is allowed to go that far. If it did, it would Pac-Man back like I already told told you. But we will get to the edge of the world, and that's why we're going to sail there on the Great Flat Earth Expedition. Okay, and you know the ship that they'll be sailing on will use navigational instruments that were designed on the scientific basis of the curvature of the Earth? Like if the Earth were flat, you could just use 3 satellites and be on your way. But because it's spherical, you need satellites on the other side of the Earth. You do understand that, don't you? She scowled at me. But then that turned into a smug smile. Oh, you'll see. We'll get there and all you deniers will be in awe at what we've achieved. Wait a minute, I said, and I went into the kitchen. I came back and passed her a plastic cake knife that we never use. You might need this, I said. It's dragon glass. That's just a made-up story, she said. I know, I told her. Let that sink.
Flat Earth expert Mark Sargent thinks the moon landing was a hoax.
Technically, the moon itself is a hoax.
Right, but betting with Sportsbet's new iPhone app?
I could do this standing on my head.
Thanks, Gravity. Sportsbet's new iPhone app. It's foolproof.